Would you ever drink out of a toilet? Don't answer. Don't, please do not answer that. I know someone somewhere would, and that is not what this is about, right? What I would like to talk about is water recycling. Well, what is water recycling? A lot of people, you know what recycling is, right? Well, you buy a product, use it, recycle it, goes somewhere through some process, turns into something new that we, the consumer, then just get to buy all over again, right? Well, water recycling is not much different. But for some reason, there's this big negative stigma associated with water recycling. A lot of people think that once the water goes down the drain, down the sink, down the toilet, that it's gone, and I do not want that water coming back into my house to be drinking water. Now, this is understandable, it's, rational, but it's not the full picture. And so I just would like, if you could, put your judgment aside for the next few minutes and let's just discuss what water recycling actually is and what it's all about. To understand water recycling, you have to kind of understand, where does water come from first off. In Texas, that comes from surface water, which is going to be your lakes, your rivers, anywhere where the water, you can access it from on above the ground. Just walking around, it's on the surface, right? And then you also have your groundwater. That's going to be the water in your aquifers below ground. You have to access it through a well. Now, what does that mean? So what, right? Well, in Texas, these systems, they're not going anywhere. They're fixed systems. What we have in them is what we have. It'll fluctuate up and down, through the years, but it's not really going to gain that much. Now, the population, on the other hand, well, that's through the roof. People are constantly coming here. People are constantly having new families. You can't go down the street without coming into 10 new subdivisions, right? With this population boom, there's a demand for water that's unprecedented. Unfortunately, with this demand, there's also waste that's just unfathomable. I mean, how many times have you been driving down the road and you see it's raining, but their sprinkler systems are on at apartment complexes or golf courses, like major places, just wasting water. All these things just need to be addressed, but they're not. And so it just ends up being this huge demand for a source that's not growing. That's a recipe for disaster. Now, what happens to water once it's used? Well, through various paths, the water's going to end up at a wastewater plant. Without going into depth of how that wastewater plant actually operates, just know that, dirty stuff comes in, right? And then there's a government agency, especially in Texas, it's a state agency, that's TCEQ, Texas Commission of Environmental Quality, that regulates and stipulates what that plant has to do to treat that water. And the end result is the water leaving that plant has to be cleaner than the source water that it's dumping into. So if that wastewater plant discharges into a river, which most do, then that water leaving the plant has to be cleaner than the river that it's discharging into. So let's talk about, what is water recycling then? Well, here in Temple, in Texas, we get our water from a surface water treatment plant that's on Leon River. Leon River is a river that's fed by Lake Belton. Now, that plant pulls water out of that river and treats it. It goes through this whole process that also TCEQ regulates, says you have to meet these requirements to make it safe and drinkable. So it's pulling water out of this river, which is, it can be dirty river water, and it's treating it to your drinking water. Well, instead of just pulling the water out of the river, what water recycling is taking that wastewater plant's discharge, which is cleaner than the river water, and injecting it at the start of the treatment process of the surface water plant. It still has to go through all this cleaning and the treatment and everything. It's still regulated. It still goes through everything that the regular river water would have to go through, but it's already been cleaned by the wastewater plant. So it's like a double cleaning. So why don't we do it? Well, that's the question. That's the $1 million question. And hopefully the next time that you hear about this, it'll probably be at a city council member meeting where they're discussing, do you want to go to water recycling? Hopefully, now that you understand what it is, you won't be affected by the stigma and you'll realize that this is a great option. But I'll leave that up to you.